How long you been working on that Irish accent?
Hey, hey. Did you see how I saw you? Thank you so much for doing the pod, bro.
Oh, mate, thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
I'm glad
appreciate that, man. Looking very dapper, brother. I love that.
Thank you very much.
Where's this from?
This is a Percival top.
Oh,
yeah.
Percival.
Yeah. I had to pull out something.
They're looking after everyone at the moment. I can't lie. Yeah. I can't lie, bro.
You know, when companies start looking after people, you start seeing it and everything. Like, I'm like, oh, honey, I got
a lot of time for Percival. You know? If you're listening, guys,
I'm here for it. It wears well. It wears well.
Man.
This is straight back from Australia as well. I don't know why I packed this for Australia, but I was like, just in case it gets a bit chilly.
So when you was in Australia, that would have been what? There's summertime.
Yeah, just coming at the end of the summertime. So I just started, like when we were in Melbourne, it just started to get a bit chilly and just started to rain a bit, but still warm.
So are you on tour at the moment? That's why he's in Australia?
Yeah, well, we were. Just kind of came off. We got a couple of, 2 months break now before the summer festival started.
Yeah.
And then we're just back on again.
Isn't that how you kind of, no, I wouldn't say got started, but you supported Plan B in Dublin, right, as a teenager?
Yeah, I was gigging from 15, something like that.
Yeah.
I was gigging in school, yeah. Because I started off making hip hop beats. I'm a big old school hip hop fan. When I was 13, 14, I got into Ninth Wonder and Primo and Easy Mo B and stuff like that, and started making beats. And then that got me into spitting a bit. My dad's a musician, so I was always singing and writing songs. Yeah. And I just started gigging really young. I was just there was a little bubbling Irish hip hop scene at the time. Small, but there was loads of gigs. And it was a small community as well, so it was everyone was putting everyone on all the time. Yeah. So I was gigging weekends when I was in school. And then one of them weekends I met Plan B in a club called, I think it was The Village in Dublin. And it was just cliched old story. Did the support slot. It was a couple of us. And we were kind of spitting outside of his room and we were singing and trying to get his attention. He eventually came out and started listening, and it's Ben, he was really serious, and he was like, yeah. And he pulled me to the side and he was like, oh, I've got a vocal competition on MySpace at the time. He's like, 679 have set it up.
Oof, yeah.
He's like, you should enter it. It closes in a couple of weeks. I was like, yeah, all right. And entered it, won it, and I won a day in the studio with him. And my mum's side of the family, I was born in Hackney. My mum's side of the family were from Hackney. My nan, God rest her soul, but she was still alive at the time, and I used to go over and see her in the summers. And I said, oh, I've got a studio session in Leytonstone, so I went and stayed with her for a couple of days. Went in and did the studio session with him, and he was like, at the end of it, it was just really straight down the line. He was like, what are you doing? And because I started playing guitar at the end of the session and singing, he was like, no, that's the stuff, that's what I really love you doing. And he was like, what are you doing now? I just finished school. I finished school early. I was 16, and I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I was going to go back and work and save up a bit of money and just kind of figure it out. And he was like, forget all of that. Fuck it, move to London. And I was like, and he said, look, if you move to London, I'll give you some studio time. You can stay at my mum's. I'll try and help you out as much as I can. And I was like, fucking hell, this was someone I massively looked up to at the time as well. Yeah. So I kind of went home, worked for a bit, saved up some money, and then packed my bag and moved to London, 17. And then that's when I went on the road with him and was using his studio in Kensal Green.
Oh,
and then it kind of kick-started everything. I came back and, on and off then for 2 years. I was back and forth here living. Yeah. 2 or 3 years,
That sounds like an intro of a beginning of a film, bro.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, you know.
Oh, that's dope, man.
Yeah, it was a lovely interaction, you know how these industries can be. It's easy to start off with really negative interactions, but Ben
and I couldn't imagine what it would have been like. You're 17 as well. So what 17, year are we talking?
So 2000 and
because you said MySpace as well.
Yeah. So it would have been, I was 16 going 17, so I finished school 16. That was the summer, so I just turned 17, so it would have been August 2007.
Oh, okay.
I'm 1990, so it would have been August 2007. I'm a July baby, so I would have just gone 17.
What do you think the biggest difference was of you going from Dublin to then moving back to London, but you're kind of sofa surfing in some ways and doing open mics and that? What was the biggest difference? Because I've done a show once in Dublin, Dublin is an
I'm
absolute
actually from a
vibe.
place called Wexford, but
Oh, is
like,
it?
it's about an hour and a
That's
half.
where the show was when you.
Yeah, it
Plan
was
B
in Dublin. Yeah, I spent a lot
Okay.
of time in Dublin.
Yeah.
And Dublin was where most of the gigs were at that time,
Mm.
specifically. But I was brought up in a town called New Ross in County Wexford, which is like an hour and a half south east.
Oh, okay.
It's quite rural, like.
Because
10,000
you know what I say, yeah? Because when I went to Dublin, the vibes, it's such a vibey place, you know?
Oh, it's a vibe. I love Dublin.
Hey, Dublin is a
yeah.
vibey place,
Dublin
man.
is a-
I done my first gig there, and it was so fun. The people were so friendly.
There's a great spirit in the people.
Yeah,
in Dublin, man.
but like good vibe. And then I think they told me to split the G. I never done this before, bro. I've never been under so much pressure.
Was that before or after the gig?
Before the show.
Yeah, okay.
I said, you know, me being me, I'm like, I'm here in Dublin, man.
Yeah.
I always like to really make an effort to be like, you know, I'm here. I know I'm not from here, but I want to know about
Experience a place.
Yeah,
when you go
if
there,
I'm
definitely.
on a show and I'm like, okay, cool, and I'll ask the audience, where's everyone from? Or
Yeah.
I've heard to go to this place for the best thing, and people say to me, you know, in Philly, for example, where can I get the best Philly cheesesteak?
Cheesesteak,
Shall I go there? You know, man, you want to go there, man. You want to go to West Side. And I'm like,
I want to hear
cool.
stuff from people on the ground. like, where you-
Yeah. So I'm asking. I said, no, I'm in Ireland, and I'll be honest, I don't really drink Guinness like that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I said, all right, let me. And then someone said, split the fucking G, man.
Yeah.
I said, split the what? what's this, man?
Yeah.
And they get split. Well, you gotta split the G, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean?
How long you been working on that Irish accent?
Hey, did you see how I said it?
No, it's good. It's not bad now. It's not bad. I've heard words.
But because my surname's Irish as well, isn't it?
Okay, yeah.
So I feel like I do quite well in Ireland when I do shows because
Yeah.
they're like, well, you know, it's fucking surnames.
Yeah.
You know, we're going back for the fucking time. You
Your
know.
passport is in the post. Don't worry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. But how was it for you? Because I feel like going back to what I was saying is like Ireland is just a vibey place anyway. Do you know what I mean? But like London, if you know the right people, you can have a fun time here. If you don't, it can be very miserable. Do you know what I mean? But you said you're born and bred in Hackney. Your mum's from Hackney.
Yeah, I was born in Hackney, but from the age of 4, we were in Wexford. My dad's from a town called New Ross, and that's where we were raised. And then I moved back at 17, but we were back a lot of summers, and all my mum's side of the family, all Londoners. So I had London wasn't a completely fresh place for me to come to. It was always, I was always closely connected with London. But it's definitely not being raised in London and coming back. You know, I was 17, but I guess it can work for people of any age. It can be a cold city if you don't know people.
Yeah, man.
But then I was lucky enough that through Plan B, through Ben, that a lot of his friends became my friends. I spent a lot of time in Forest Gate and Wanstead, and I was just blessed in a way that you know, a lot of his friends ended up becoming quite close, and I kind of had a unit of people that I was hanging around with early doors. Yeah. So I wasn't completely by myself and fresh. You know what I mean?
And so, 17, that's when you kind of moved to London, right?
Yeah.
So you're in London. Then at 20, you get signed. You sign with Universal. Which is your debut album, which went number 2. Did you feel like that made you an overnight success in a way that I know you had been grinding, but in terms of like being such a young age, getting signed, album comes out, number 2, and now your name, Bow, is in lights in some ways. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
do you know what? I guess for me, it didn't feel like that because that was at the end. You know, the success of the first album was, you know, a year and a half after I signed. So it was like 21 was when I really felt the success of that first record. So at that point, it's 6 years into me making music, putting it out, gigging.
Yeah.
There was probably moments before that felt like they kind of build into that. You know what I mean? There was the tune I had with Pro Green Jungle that had been out. There was a Chasing Status tune that had come out on their second album. There was a song of mine, Sometimes, that had done really well and kind of charted by itself independently before that. Done really well on Channel U back in the day. And there was a couple moments that was kind of helping me get gigs, and I was also doing the open mic circuit as much as I could. And then when I signed, then things kind of started to like build up. So I guess like maybe to certain people who hadn't followed the journey, it would have been like out of nowhere the first single came, and then we kind of went into the album did really well. Second, third single did well, and then we were on the road for like 2 years after it. But for me, it was more like a kind of long-term progression and stuff. You know?
Yeah. Did it feel like a shift in that time of like, oh, like, you know, I've done that open mic circuit? Because I feel like at that time the open mic circuit was, you know, shows like I Love Live and stuff, which you had, you know, Ed Sheeran might pop in, you know, Jessie J would pop in.
It was thriving at the time. I don't know if you remember Turn Off the Radio as well in Bow. And I had like Twigs, Adele, Early Doors, and I Love Live, especially. Some of my fondest memories with some of them gigs.
Yeah.
I remember like certain moments. There was one in what was the spot at the back of, was it the back of Shoreditch on the corner?
Oh,
not the Queen of, was it the Queen of Hoxton?
I know the one you're talking about though. I can't remember the name. I know the location.
There was a bar upstairs. And then the club was downstairs.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember a couple of gigs at that feeling like a changing point for me. Like, there's peers of mine that I really respect and I've grown up listening to, that are now in the crowd and cheering for certain songs. I was like, I could feel a slight progression with certain things like that. But the open mic scene at the time, I don't know what it's like now, but the open mic scene at the time felt like thriving. Yeah,
100%. Like I know it from a standpoint of just doing stand-up comedy, where, especially on the black circuit, you know, you had like Kojo's Corks Wine Bar show, and then you had Sunday show. So you had, that was just even for myself as a comic, but also knowing that there was a music scene with an open mic, you know, an open mic nights. And I know I Love Live a little bit more because, one, I got to host it once, which felt like, oh, wow, hosting it.
Do you remember what venue it was?
It was in Camden.
Oh, Proud.
Proud, Proud Camden, yeah. And I remember hosting it, and I was like, at the time, I was like, if I do well hosting this and I'm funny, might be on one extra. Might be on one extra next week, you know? Like, that call never came.
Well, funny enough on that night, then.
That call never came.
Because who used to host it? Was it Ras Kwame who used to host
Ras
it?
Kwame, right? Yes. Yeah. But
what
I remember going with my friends, and, you know, some of my friends would do music, and, you know, if you get early, you get to sign up. You get to perform, and be like, all right, guys, we got someone who's going to come up and perform, and they're going to do a track. And, you know, one of our friends, he done music, and, you know, you go with your friends to support music, and you're like, yeah, man, you know, you have that kind of like, you know, that 8 Mile mentality. Yeah, man, I'll go, man. Like this will be,
because that's what I felt like at the time.
100%, it
like,
really
one
did.
Tune goes down right, and you don't know who's watching, you don't know who's in the audience, man. And like,
especially because A&Rs used to go to those shows as well. Do you know what I mean? They're looking for the next, you know, the next thing and stuff.
Because I think the A&R who signed me, Semtex, I think he came to one of the ones in Proud, Camden at the back. There's an I Love Live. I think that was one of the first ones he saw me at.
Semtex signed you?
Yeah, he was one. Well, it was Semtex and an A&R called Jamie Nelson, but Semtex was the one who who kind of came and approached me first. Yeah, and I think that was off the back of one of the I Love Live ones.
Yeah. I remember first listening to your album, is it Lonely Are the Brave? Mm-hmm. Bro, it's a bad boy album, bro.
Thank you, lad.
Bad boy album. I'm talking, I had that album iTunes days.
Yeah.
You know when it's called iTunes?
iPod days, yeah. It was like this getting out of the pocket.
Yeah. For the youngers, it was called iTunes back in the day, bro. Yeah. Not this Apple Music.
No, CDs.
Yeah. And I remember one of the tracks that really stood out for me was, I think it was Let Me Go.
Oh, yeah. That was the first single we put out.
Yeah, that tune. Because that, you know what it is, yeah? You've got this voice, yeah, where it's like soul and pain, yeah? But it's almost like, you know that, I don't know if you've ever had this where you listen to someone and you say, if I close my eyes, is this guy black? You know that there's certain songs you ever listen to. There's some like old disco songs I listen to and I go, oh, is this, who's this? I don't know who this is. But I felt like your sound was like, it's interesting you saying now where like you had this massive influence through, you know, hip hop and stuff, because like the soul that you had in your voice was like, oh, I don't think like I ever heard anyone sing like that. Do you know what I mean? It had like this soul in it, but also like it was like, oh, raw, like these are on tracks that I really understand and I'm familiar with. Do you know what I mean? Which is a great position to be in, because I feel like, I don't know if anyone's ever said this, but it's like, you know, like the you know, like the girls like it, yeah, but the man them are like, yeah, let me play this in the track in the car still. Yeah. And it was like honestly like an amazing album. What was like some of your feedback, you know, when that album came out? and, you know, the reactions to that? Because I feel like it was such a unique sound.
Yeah, I think, do you know what, interestingly, when you kind of going back to what you were saying about changing points, when Let Me Go came out, I felt like, and I don't know if it was necessarily also to do with the video, it was like the first flashy video we did. We went to Vegas, it starts off on the strip and it zooms out, and I'm in a car and it's like, you're in the old Vegas strip, which is like casino and all was shot on. And I remember people back home ringing me like, "You've made it now, lad." and I think like the nature of that tune with like the horns and the kind of punchiness of it, it felt like a big intro into a record. But definitely at the time there was a split. Like, you know, I remember doing Jules Holland for the first time, and like the comments were split because my tone of voice for some people at the time was like, "Oh, what the fuck is this? It sounds like he's singing through his nose. It sounds like he's fucking getting strangled."
Really?
So it was a bit of a split. But then I think what happened within that for me was like my core audience who felt what I was doing. Really supported. You know what I mean? You know, because I went through my own stuff at the time with the label of like, you know, what I should dress like and look like, and you know, elements of it trying to morph me into something that maybe I wasn't. And I was always very anti that. I was like, you saw me as a kid singing kind of like rebel soul hip hop tunes on a guitar, skinhead in a tracksuit. I'm not going to suddenly now start wearing like hats and trying to look like an indie band. That wasn't it's never been, you know what I mean?
Does that happen a lot with labels and stuff? Because you hear it from the artist, but like, is that something that happens a lot in the sense where they've signed you and they've, you know, they're like, cool, we're signing you, but we're signing you for this particular markets where they want to put you in a hat and a leather jacket and, do you know what I mean, the pointy leather shoes and stuff with the skinny jeans and
I guess like you know, I guess that happens in different extremes for different types of artists from their own journey. And it does, it's you know, I guess some part of that people would say, oh, it's the marketing element of pushing an artist out, and other people would say it's, you know, missing the point with artists. And like, you know, it's like buying a car but then stripping it the minute you get home and changing the doors and changing the wheels. It's like, why'd you buy the car in the first place for? That's what it was on, you know. And sometimes you can miss your audience by that. So for me, I was just, I was a bit bullheaded about it when I was younger. I was like, I know the audience that I want to reach, and I know what I want people to feel like, and I don't want that really to be masked or idolised in anything that's like, I need to be a star or something like, you know. That never really sat well with me. So
what's those first 2 years when you're on the road with Plan B like? Because, you know, when you're supporting an artist like that, did it feel like a bit of a whirlwind of like, oh my God, we're here and we're there? Because, you know, some of my friends who, you know, are musicians, and I used to see it from the outside before I started touring, and they're going to, I remember a friend of mine, you know, big up my friend Mark Crown, he plays trumpet.
Oh, I know Mark.
You know Mark Crown?
I know Mark for years.
Oh, I swear, I went to school with him, bro.
Mark put, he recorded some bits for my second album.
Is it?
On some of the
swear. I
think it was like 2 or 3 of the songs he did.
Oh, big up Mark, man. Yeah, that's my guy, man. We went to school together.
Okay, because I've known Mark since like the Rudy days and.
Oh yeah,
I think that's where I first met him. Yeah.
Okay.
Back in Rudimental.
Oh, that's insane. So I went to school with him, right?
Okay.
So, you know, he's always played trumpet from school. And, you know, when things started like going well for him and he's, you know, touring with Rudimental and stuff, you know, I'd see it from the outside and be like, right, you in Japan, bro? What's Japan like? And you're in Thailand, what's that like? And they'd be like, I remember one time he was like, bro, we get on a plane, we land, we do the show, we sleep, we go to somewhere else. I don't see none of these places. And I was like, come on, surely there must be a spare 2 hours in the day to see Peru.
It's like I've just touched on the beach and then, all right, that's enough.
And he said, nah, you don't see none of it. But like, he was like, I remember him telling me, like, he said, like, but bro, time is just not a thing because you sleep, eat, you're on the tour bus or whatever
you
it is.
Try and catch sleep wherever you can.
Yeah, and what were those first 2 years like?
The first 2 years were chaotic, being honest with you. They were chaotic. They were brilliant and they were beautiful. And I've got like some of my fondest touring memories, but it was like my firsts for a lot of things. It was my first time being on a tour bus. It was my first time, you know, travelling around Europe and the UK and Ireland and doing shows and, you know, playing to rooms that were maybe bigger than a couple of 100 caps. And then that first Plan B tour, his album had just gone #1, Strickland Banks. And so it was like this extra buzz that was happening.
Yeah.
And then, I was young, chaotic. I only had half an hour set every night, so I wasn't warming up or warming down or considering my voice. I was like kind of in iron mode, like, fucking, well, we've made it now. You know what I mean? And we were like, that tour especially was, I'd been in London a couple of years at that point, so everyone on the touring party was family, you know what I mean, at that point. So it was all of us having a lot of first time experiences, and it was fun. It was chaotic though, and like you don't see places, you know, you don't. Most venues look exactly the same when you pull up. It's that cycle of hungover. I'm just about able to do sound check. You get through sound check. You're like, right, I've got an hour before I'm on. You do the set, you come off, you start drinking, there's a club, there's free drink, there's like stuff that I hadn't had before. And
Because that's the thing, I'm asking because like at that age, it must feel just like, oh my God, this is what life must feel like for a musician in some ways. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, like definitely all the cliches of what you expect in rock and roll. And you feel that, you know what I mean? And you know, and I guess the younger you are, the more naive you are to it, and it's just like also the first time you're experiencing a lot of it. So you know, it's there was a lot. I would say the first couple of years touring felt like that. Probably up until I was about maybe like 25. 26, the things start to like. Did
you get more discipline once you was doing your own tours?
Yeah, definitely. It's just because, you know, it's one thing being able to get through a half an hour set or coming on and doing 5 songs at an open mic, or it's a whole other thing when you've got to do an hour and 20. And like, you know, I'll write songs but like a falsetto chorus where I'm singing at the top of my range in the studio. That's grand when it's a controlled environment. When you've been on the road for 2 weeks and you're drinking and smoking and God knows what else, to try and sing them high notes, you know what I mean? You know, so it's like you forget, you know, it's like, oh right, actually you know, it's a muscle, you know, I can't just absolutely cane it. And then as you get older, it's just the natural wear down, lad. You know what I mean? You get into your 30s then, you try to do that shit.
Listen, man, when you finish your gig and you're like, have you ever finished the show, like not early, but you're like, oh, like started on time, finished on time, and the way I just like sleep, I'm gonna have the juiciest sleep.
Where like on that last little bit of the set, you're like, okay, I might turn into a granddad, but I'm kind of looking forward to going back to the hotel.
Listen, when we're on the road, it's funny because my tour manager he really likes to walk around. He does the I'm gonna go around, and he finds a gym, and he'll take he'll get his tripod, he'll stick it on a lamppost and take a picture like someone's took it, to the point where I said, bro, who's taking these pictures?
Oh, he's ready to rock and roll.
He wakes up at 6
and he's stuck on that lamppost. Go on.
You know what? We've been on tour. So he's
photographing himself as he's going around.
To the point where we was on tour for almost, I don't know, we was in America for like 3 months at one point. And I was like, who takes these pictures at 6 a.m?
Is everyone thinking you're taking the photos of me?
Because in my head, I'm like, because I was like, I'm not taking them.
Yeah.
And I said, who takes these pictures? He said, I've got this magnet that sticks onto lamppost. So it's like he can watch it on, like, if we're flying or whatever. Yeah. But he sticks on a lamppost, but like, he will take, it isn't like he's walking and he'll have a tram or something in the background in like Vancouver. And I'm like, who's taking it? He said, yeah, I'll stick it there.
Oh, he's doing artistic ones as well. Okay, he's getting abstract and everything. He was doing it, he's tour manager.
He was trying to get onto me. He's like, oh, bro, you don't get out all day in the hotel. I said, bro, I sleep. And until the show night, then I'll come out. But until then, I'm sleeping and recovering. I ain't got time to take pictures, and like I might hit the gym in the hotel. But and maybe get a little food. But other than that, when you're touring, and especially when you get to an age where you're like, the sleep I can have and watch some films and stuff. Ooh.
And in that little hour or two break, I don't want to see anyone. No disrespect to no one, but I just might want to go for a walk by myself and not talk or not do anything. So if I do venture out, it's that.
Because I think people don't realise how much, like, you're so used to being on, of like when you perform, especially touring, when you're like, I'm on, I've got a, especially for musicians, you guys have to sound check, then you've got, and it's hard for me now because like when I've got a support act, I will watch them the first couple of shows. But after that, I'm like, bro, I can hear it in the thing, but I've got to do, I've got to do my reset. I need to reset to pump me up before shows and stuff.
Because I think it must be harder. I think it must be harder for a comedian Because like, what's your average set time? Hour and a half or something like that?
About hour. This tour's about hour and 10. Yeah, but that
like,
10 minutes is crowd work, so I'm just messing around anyway.
We've at least got rest points. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a guitar solo that might go on for 20 seconds. There might be like a breather song the band might play for an extra little bit.
I do like it when you guys do that though. That's so fun, man.
What, when the band's
Yeah, when the band play. Yeah. So some of you lot walk off. You walk off and
just tapping your head a bit, get the sweat up. But yeah, as a comedian, you're out there and, you know, when you stop talking, there's silence. I've always found that fascinating and appreciated the art form, because I'm like, wow, you've got to fill all the gaps. Or like, sometimes I guess in comedy, silence and the breaks and the physicality of it is the funniness as well.
But you know what? I think as I've got older, it's enjoying the silence a little bit now, because all I need when I get out there is a laugh. Sometimes it might be higher than other nights. You're like, oh, they really get it to me. Or, oh, they're not really there today. They might have to work a bit harder. But not so much the silence when the joke don't work. It's when I'm explaining a story and it's so silent. And I'm like, it's the one moment whenever I do what I do and I go, oh, I've got everyone's attention right now. Sometimes you might get someone talking, but you're like, right now, I've got everyone's attention. And I'm in the master of, if I say this line, it will really work. If I say the wrong line, sometimes I don't know if you've had this, where all I have to say is a line. The line might be like, and then he took my burger. That might be the punchline.
Yeah.
But I've done it a few times where I've stuttered, and I'm like, and then he took my. The way this laugh does not land.
Because it's that thing of
soul
like,
destroying, bro.
It's that thing of like, you've got the audience's attention, but an audience will pick up on the slightest crack in the smoothness of a delivery. And that's, I guess, the same for a singer of like, if you've got an audience that, like, if you've got a broken down moment, you know, that little bit of tremolo in your voice, that little quiver at the end, if you do it right, you know, you've grabbed them even more. But if you do or it doesn't hit right, you've and you can feel the break. You know what I mean? You can feel the break and then being a bit like, oh, okay, that was all right. Yeah.
Can I ask you this? As a musician, right?
Yeah.
Now I go to a lot of live shows. Yeah. When you play new stuff, is that like I need to get my new music out there because we've been working on this? Because, or is it like I'm just gonna just float this thing? Because I guess for yourself, where you've got an audience who's like, oh, I really want to hear this song, really want to hear that song. But also there is a point of view like, guys, I got a new song, gonna try this one out. What goes through your mind when you guys say, well, I'm gonna do the new song? Is it like to test it out, to try it, to give them something they never heard before, or what is going on there? I'm so intrigued, man. Yeah,
do you know what? Being honest, I don't think I do that enough. And I had a conversation with a friend of mine. This was a little while ago. He's a DJ, and he was talking about new DJs, and maybe that a lot of the new DJs maybe have lost an element of the art form of being teachers. And you know, the audience in that room, they want to hear the bangers, but they also want to hear something that, you know, you as the tastemaker can give to them that they might not know. And I think for us, it's more about road testing tunes. I think some musicians still do it a lot, but I think maybe the new age has lost it a bit of road testing tunes. I definitely feel like I can be better at it. When we've done it in the past, it's definitely about, like, you know, sometimes you see, especially in the world of streaming and stuff like that, the audience and performance is the only really A to B point that you get. That shit feels real. Right? You can kind of get lost without that a bit.
Of course.
And you can get lost about like what moments of songs really connect. There might be a lyric that you think, you know, that's cool, but then you do it on tour and you're like, oh, actually, I didn't realise that that's the most sentimental part of the whole song for an audience. So yeah, I think it's finding out what connects or not. You know. But yeah, I definitely need to do that more, I would say. Do you do that with
Well,
jokes?
I guess for me, it's like they always want to hear something new. So if I even say a line...
It has to be,
that might sound like, oh, I think I've said this in another special or somewhere else. Like, even when it gets a laugh, I'm a bit like, oh, you guys know that I've done that joke before. Like, especially if I know it's been on in a special, for example, then I'm like... But then also, where I do my little, you know, little Rastafari nursery rhymes, I get people like, do the rhyme. And I'm like, no, I've worked on this craft for
yeah.
about, you want a Rastafari? Go watch that.
You're not getting an old one.
Yeah, but then the part of me is like, I do want to feed what you want, but my thing, I just need a laugh from this. So I don't mind giving it to you, but if you're not going to laugh and just, then I'm going to feel like a fucking idiot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because then I'd have just taken it in for sentimental reasons.
Yeah.
The laughter is off hearing something fresh. Like,
so that's the thing. It's like, because it's fresh and I do it where you're not expecting, you're like, oh, right. This isn't, oh, okay, listen. Whereas if I've had it a few times, it's like, go and do that bit. You're like, nah, bro, I ain't doing that. Nah, man, I've worked on this new bit for about 10 months. So you're going to listen to this
test
new bit.
them bits out then? Like, do you do it to smaller audiences?
Yeah. You have to do for me anyway, I have to do my work in progress shows before I jump any tour show. And it's a bittersweet feeling, because going on the road is great, but like the work in progress and seeing what works and what doesn't, and knowing you're like, that bit really works. And sometimes an audience member will say, hey, keep that bit in. And you're like, yeah, but you're like, it just doesn't go with the narrative of what I'm trying to do with this story and this special. And it's hard, but also like knowing I change bits for different regions. So in America, some bits I will take out and add new bits. But then when I go back home here, you're like, well, that bit, talk about TSA ain't gonna work. Because back home, like, who's TSA? I don't know that. You mean the Home Office? Yeah, but it's kind of, it just doesn't work. Do you know what I mean? Speaking about Plan B being your mentor, did you kind of like mentor, like, because you worked with Jorja Smith when she was quite young as well, did you kind of mentor her in some kind of ways?
Yeah, I guess in a sense. I think, you know, when I came out of Universal, I came off Universal in 2016, and within a couple of weeks it was a big changing point for me. You know, I kind of felt like time and inspiration and connection with a lot of things in my life had run out a bit, and I wasn't in the best place. I remember I came back from a tour in Australia. I got kicked out of me flat for noise complaints. I was staying with my sister. I'd gone into Universal and been like, I don't think this is working for either of us. You know, let's go our separate ways. It was all love. I'd been on a management company at the time that personally I didn't think was working for me. And I remember being on my sister's couch one day and being like, fucking hell, it's like, everything's gone. And I was like, all right, you know, where do I go now? And there was a friend of mine who was, who'd always been in my life. He was a lawyer. I'd met him at like 17. He was a hip hop promoter. Was my lawyer for my first 2 deals. Always someone I trusted heavily. And he was like, he played me this girl's music one night, like fucking early in the morning, like a house party, 4 o'clock in the morning. Like, you gotta listen to this girl's music. She's unbelievable. And it was Jorja's music. It was like a couple of early demos. So yeah, these are amazing. And he wanted to build a team of people that had kind of been in the industry, weren't sharks, knew we'd come in with the right intentions. He was just like, just want you to sit with her for a while and write some songs and kind of nurture it. And you know, she was already an amazing songwriter. So I was kind of in and around her, like from 15. Just wrote songs for years before she put Blue Lights out. And then we've been kind of working and collaborating ever since, and it's been my little sister. Sick, it was just a bit of a chance to be like, you know, I had the blessing of coming into an industry with a lot of love and people who really had some real angels that looked out for me. And I just want to make sure I can do that and have done that if I can, you know.
Could you speak about like sharks and stuff with the music industry and whatnot? Is that something almost to kind of be wary about as an artist, where everyone can see your talent apart from you, if that makes sense? So like as an artist or any creative, like you're like, oh, I know I'm talented, but it's easy to get someone to say, nah, you are the next big thing. And I guess it must be hard being like, oh, okay, well, I believe that, and I'm going to set you up with this person and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Is that something to be wary about in some ways?
Yeah, I think it's a thing in general in life of, you know, tuning into your intuition a lot more with people, and, you know, especially coming from a musician's point of view, figuring out who really truly is there for you for the right reasons. Because if they're there for longevity, then they should be loyal, they should be solid, and they should be building in the long term.
Yeah, of course.
You know, sometimes in early doors it's hard to see who is pure, who you can trust. A lot of us, definitely me, you know, I was naive coming in. You know, I finished school early, straight into gigging. I was hungry as fuck. I get signed at 20. It's a whirlwind. I've got chaotic mind. It's racing all over the place, and I'm doing shows, and then life's gone mental. You know, you switch off to business a bit, and you're like, I'm the pure artist. I need to create, get the message to the people. Fucking, this is what I'm here for. And you know, for me, you also, you know, you tune out a lot. You know, so it wasn't until years later that I started to like get my head around my own business and the background of everything. And that was a process. So in that process, people come in and take advantage of it, you know? And I learned lessons in a hard way with certain things, but it was a blessing because I don't think I'd be in the position I am now if I hadn't gone that way. But there is definitely a lot of sharks. It's like anywhere where I feel like there's pure creatives, especially pure young creatives that are hungry and want to get on, there's always going to be people with, you know, not the best intentions, especially early doors where you can make a lot of money and fuck off and leave that artist. You know, that artist might end up having to go home and live back in their hometown, but you've made $250,000 off them, and then you just fucked off. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So you just have to be wary of whose intentions pure.
You also had a track on EAFC, right?
Yeah. We had.
How did that come about? Because I feel like for any artist, as much as, you know, you want to get your music out there, but, you know, having your song, like,
there's certain things.
The video like, game is like, it's just, I guess it's one of those tick box. I guess the only way I can compare it is being a comic and having maybe your one, like, I don't know, your comedy clip that goes viral. So for me, it's probably like one of my Couple of Cans clips every summer. It's like, Couple of Cans, Julie. It's like, Barbados. Every summer, I put that video out. Thank you, bro. Every summer, that's almost like my version of like an EAFC. It's like,
it's a staple.
People do know me as it, but it's like, listen, when it gets a bit sunny in spring, I'm like, time's up.
And another one, come on now.
Because I guess it's like, there is a feeling of not knowing where sometimes your music is traveling, and you know, like I've gone to other countries and heard my friend's song in like a shop, and I'm like, right, bro, like I'm in this shop in here in Bali and they're playing your music here. Do you know what I mean? But I guess as a musician, you wouldn't always know, but at least there is some comfort in knowing that, like, like all my boys play like FIFA and that, and
and there's something as well. There's these things that, like, you go through a lot of, you know, you're probably the same. You go through a lot of experiences, and sometimes people are like, wow, you've just done that, and you've just done that. That must be amazing. You're like, no, it is. But then it's other things that feel more, you know, like there's like a more historical thing of sentimental attachment.
Of course.
So it's like, I wanted my songs to be on FIFA for years. I was like, why the fuck is no one messaging me about any song? And then I think it was the last FIFA game, I got 2 songs on there. I was like, what? All right. And so it's certain things like that like, some of them things mean more to you than loads of other successes. If that makes sense, you know? I've had my music in different like films and TV series. I also write for a lot of people, and like seeing that musical journey of songs you've written, that kind of, you've got absolutely no control over where and what happens with them, and to kind of see them kind of be placed into different things.
Has there ever been an artist who's hit you up and's like, that you was like, what? Like, or that's hit you up and like, bro, like I really want to work with you in some capacity, that's hit you up and be like, bro, like you know me. What? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, it definitely has. Yeah, it definitely has. Again, like on like the music that I was kind of growing up with, it was more leaning on the hip hop side of things that, you know, people I grew up listening to that I was amazed by. You know, I remember getting a message from Primo once about something that I'd done. He was like, "Yo, I just heard this and this is hard," and I was like, my whole production, you know, inspiration was you and Ninth Wonder. When I was like 14, I would have been banging my head against a wall if I would have known that, you know, 15, 20 years later this would have been happening. But then it's also like, I was a big UK hip hop fan, so Kalashnikov, when I first met Clash, that's the first, probably like, might have been a couple of other occasions, but being honest, like, that's the first time I was nervous to meet someone. For years, and I've met loads of people over the years, you know, but
especially if we're talking UK hip hop.
Look,
like,
without the sagas, I wouldn't be doing music now. That's a fact.
Man, forget murder,
you know, all I got, everything. You know, Paradise. You know, I used to listen to that you helped me go to school when I wasn't feeling good. Like, I'm listening to that on my walk to school every day.
Yeah.
At 15, and you know, so it's things like that, like, you know, and people like that, and them interactions will always hold a deep sense of weight for me. You know?
And you got a new single out as well, 8 Stages.
Yeah,
came out just in March.
Yeah.
How do you feel like where you're at with music now, where, you know, it's like you're saying, like you've left, you know, you've left Universal, and, you know, you're songwriting with people, you're helping mentor the next generation, like they say, like a Jorja Smith now. And how are you in the space of music now? Do you see it as an outsider looking in a bit more, where you've got this amazing experience, do you know what I mean? Like, from, we're talking like 15 years old to where you are now, and you're touring around the world. How do you see your place in music at the moment?
Do you know what? I feel pretty blessed in the position that I'm at. You know, I've got a beautiful, loyal fan base around the world that seems to be ever growing. I've been releasing independently since 2016. We've put the last 2 records out through Fam, which is an independent label that Jorja releases through too, and bands like Brick Nasty and Domain and stuff. A beautiful label. And yeah, I split my year between touring, writing for people who I really, you know, I really adore, and then putting out my own solo music. And it feels like, in the best way, that there's not really pressure on anything, you know, and it's like I'm able to serve all the elements of me as a creative in that space, you know.
Yeah, man.
I'm not like, oh, this record needs to do this, I have this pressure. It's like, I know I've got this audience, I know I want to grow, and the music I write them for other people is, you know, I'm in a space for serving them and whatever they need to get out of it. And then that has its own journey, and it's kind of like, yeah, it's a beautiful, kind of peaceful place, I feel, at the minute, you know. That's
really interesting to hear, because I feel like when you think of music, or when I hear about music and I think of music, you know, you hear of like, streamers and the artists not making a lot of money, but then also you hear people where the labels are like, you got to do a TikTok song, do you know what I mean? That's the thing.
Got to do a dance.
Yeah. So it's quite refreshing to hear that from someone like yourself. I guess that experience helps you get to the place where you're at now, where you can split your year. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
and I guess again, I'm blessed that over time, and the amount of work that's been put in, that it's, you know, in the last couple of years, things have gotten pretty, you know, balanced for me in that sense. I found the groove. You know, I still want to find it a bit more. You know, I still want to, like, you know, make sure I'm putting the right amount of time into everything. There's, you know, as you probably know yourself, you can easily spread yourself thin when you've got loads of things going on, man. You know. So there's definitely maybe a little bit of a better balance to find. But I think in the last couple of years, it's kind of, you know, the space has allowed me to not have pressure on anything, and I think that's when my best stuff has come, and you know, the stuff that I love and listen to the most, the stuff that people seem to connect with the most, and then stuff for other artists that seem to connect with the most. I think the best has come out of that, in not being pressured and kind of going back to intuition and writing with people that I really, really care for, you know what I mean? I really appreciate what they do.
Do you still have goals as well, though, as an artist, where you're like, oh, like, I still have the desire to maybe play that room or work with that artist, or, you know, have a song that goes triple platinum, essentially? Do you know what I mean? Or are they just things where you're just like, there was a younger part of me that might have wanted that stuff, but now the things that I look forward to as an artist are very different, very much different goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I think my main thing as a kid that stays true to me now is I've never lost the hunger. I think there was a period, like that period we were talking about, like 2016, where I lost a bit of the flame. Yeah. And it took a little minute to kind of rekindle that. And I think that was just someone very pure of heart coming in, purely wanting to make music, and then 4 or 5 years later, the journey being a bit of a roller coaster, having to self-reflect a lot and go, have I lost the love of music? Have I lost what I thought I was in this for? Yeah. And, you know, for me, it was, you know, the purpose of doing music in the first place was to be able to write from my heart, to connect with people. Why the first album's called Lonely Are the Bravest was to connect with people who felt lonely, and that's your 3.5 minutes in someone's ear. Like, give them a message, give them something. Yeah. Because people's message changed my life as a kid, and educated me and made me feel not lonely, and you know, gave me some warrior spirit to move forward in certain situations. So the purpose was always that, and it was always just to, I guess, blindly grow it and grow it. And I don't think I've ever lost that. I think like the flame dimmed a bit for a couple of years, but we did in 2021. It was the 10-year anniversary from my first album, Lonely Out of Brave, and when we came down to it, you know, I was still massively in debt to Universal, which, you know, I think that, you know, the numbers I don't personally, you know, agree with. They accumulate in different ways over time, but I think, you know, looking back to see the success of the album and to see the background of what's happened, it was a choice to then go and redo the album. You know, I was out of contract. I can re-record, you know, all my stuff at Universal. So we started with Lonely Out of Brave, and I wanted to come back with the 10-year anniversary and do a tour and go, here's my own version of it. So we re-recorded everything from the ground up. It took a couple months, and there's a version of Lonely Out of Brave, that's Mav's version, that I completely own. And it was just to make a point of going, all right, my, you know, 30-year-old, 31-year-old self at the time is now in a better place financially and mentally, that he can look after the 21-year-old version. Yeah, man. But what happened in that was I was also listening back to all my early takes as like a 19, 20, and 21-year-old. And it was an egotistical thing to think I was just only going to come back in and help him. He helped me. Because I'm listening to him at that age. I say him as my own younger version. And I hadn't fully reconnected with that flame. He had the flame more than anything. And it taught me something that I think then reignited something in me. And I think it was like my purpose. You know, and I've always been very strong in how I feel about my purpose and what I do, and it's to spread a message. And there's never been a specific point of like, you know, it needs to be this at this point and grow to this at this point. It just needs to be at every opportunity. How can I get it out to a bigger audience and a bigger audience? Because I believe in the power of music. It's changed my life, and I feel like I can leave the world in a better place if I set my mind to it, and I, you know, as much as I can, you know.
And when you look towards, like, as you get older, where you're in your 30s, about to go into your 40s.
Not yet, hold on, 5 years. but like, sure, you're practically 50, mate. Have you got your pension ready? No.
But no, it's true. Like, do you think of stuff like that? Because
what age?
Yeah, because I think as a musician, you know, I look at where I am now in my life, knowing that my experience is helping me write better stuff, because now I've got a lived experience. I can go on stage and be like, this is what it's like being a dad and figuring this out, but this is what it's like, you know, being, you know, someone who's in this industry who is like trying to figure it out, and knowing that I do this show, but then people know me from that place, and my experience is for better word, is like paying the bills in some ways. Because when I'm gigging at 20, I'm talking about fucking bullshit. I'm talking about, hey, you know when you go to the bar and you ain't got no money, you got to drink the ice in the water. No one would come to a show like that now. Do you know what I mean? But it's all I ever knew. But I think like my experience is really like, it's that investment where I'm like, oh, like, this is the thing that is allowing me to tour and everything I'm able to do and stuff. What do you think that is for you in some ways as a musician? You know, like, do you look to pensions and stuff, or being in a place where you're like, listen, I just want to, you know, I've got my own studio and now I just want to mentor artists. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you look at those things? Yeah,
I guess like that is a thing that I'm always moving forward and moving towards, and to like constantly build the community and the background to be able to support that, in the sense of like, all right, what do I want in 10 years? I don't want to just be able to go in and sit and bring bands on tours, or go in and write with them and give them some advice, or just give them an ear or whatever like that. I'd like to be able to give them, you know, a place to stay that's curated by me, that's a studio and a living space that I know that I would get something out of, and I know that a young musician would get something out of, and I can do that in the hills in Ireland and go like, here's my space that's away from all the bullshit, and it's just there to create, and how much can I do that? So there's a constant thing of like wanting and going to build into that. But yeah, I think, I don't know, I guess I guess on a music level, life happens as you grow, and you know, different experiences then inform what you're able to write about. And kind of like what you were saying about your experience, now people are coming to hear your experience, and they may have grown with you from that 20-year-old, and they want to hear what your perspective is now. And there's a beautiful, maybe responsibility is too strong of a word, but there's a beautiful place that you hold in people's hearts that they've grown with you. And it's like, I think for me as a musician, it's about like fine-tuning what that is. And as you get older, it's like, all right, our experiences change, our perspectives change. You know, even listening back to myself at 19, 20, there's certain lyrics I'm not going to write anymore because I'm not that kid that was like, right, you know what I mean? I was just back against the wall and like, you know what I mean, for years. And like, that's where the loneliness and the paranoia and the understanding of that space where I was in my head of kind of like fighting alone. That feeling doesn't feel the same anymore. It's changed, it's matured, it's, you know. But then life happened, so you now got all these other experiences that I was in no way capable of writing about and self-reflecting about at 20 at all, you know. And so, yes, I think it's just about fine-tuning that and finding the space and the audience for that. If that makes sense.
All right, bruv, this has been a fantastic conversation, man.
Yeah, right back at you.
It's been such a pleasure once to also like have you on my podcast as well. Do you know what I mean? Like listening to your music from like MySpace days as well, which is like, oh, raw, like that is.
I don't even know if MySpace is still going.
Oh, that's definitely gone. But this has been your beginning, middle, and end. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
I really appreciate that, man.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. Now, a lot goes into making each episode. I know you hear my voice, but there's a team behind the scenes who help make it. And if you did enjoy it, I'd really, really appreciate if you could show the love to them by giving us 5 stars. And if you also have the time, please leave us a review. It's always appreciated, and we love reading the comments. And of course, we want to keep making it better. Thank you for listening, and have a great day. Peace.